And I mean, when Jim called in yesterday, I could hear some tones, but I couldn't copy him. So it was very, very poor yesterday, and the solar metrics are pretty much in the same space. I hope you got all of that with your copy. K6MYC ZS1SBW. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. With this weather, it'll take right until next year. So I think I may put a little wire antenna up. I may put something up so we can still talk. Otherwise, I just call you on the phone while the antenna comes down. So depending on the rain next week and what happens, I was actually planning on Wednesday because I'm closing. We close our books. I close our books on Friday. And I'm closing. We're closing up on Tuesday next week. Then my whole team is, and we're shutting down our operations until the new year, which means from Wednesday on, I'm pretty much going to want to work on the antenna. But it all depends on the rain, you know. So if the rain's not working, and it's not as easy as your setup, Mikey. I can't flip the tower over. You know, I've got to climb up. I've got to put a gin pole. I've got to brace the gin pole to the mast. I run a remote control winch from the bottom, and I've got to, kind of sling each boom separately. And by myself bolt off and bring down and work. So I've got to work from this vertical position. So it takes a bit longer because of that, and I don't have anybody who can help me. So I have to do this man alone. I have done it always man alone, and because of that, it takes a bit of time. And I've got a new rotator. Which I'm going to install, and then the old rotator is coming out, and then I'm going to send that, strip that and send it away for recoating. I want to do some work on the castings. I'm not happy, I'm not happy with these die castings. It doesn't matter how you paint them, they end up, eventually you end up with a spilliform corrosion which forms under the paint. So I think I'm going to do an electroless nickel on the casting, or the die casting, and then on top of the electroless nickel, I'm going to do a powder epoxy powder paint, and then see how that holds, through the weather. But normally it just doesn't survive. Not here, not at the beginning of Africa. K6MYC ZS1SBW. Yeah, so polyester epoxy is kind of the best powder paint you can do, and normally, depending on what the housing is, what the material is, you can pre-treat it. But if it's a magnesium kind of die casting, or if it's an aluminium die casting, worst is some of these aluminium castings are terrible. The materials are really difficult to treat. So you can't just do a chromate on the casting. That doesn't always work. And then the powder paint it's a powder that's applied electrostatically, and then the item that you're going to paint goes through an oven, 200 degrees C, 170 to 200 degrees C for about 20 minutes, and then the powder, the polyester epoxy powder, cross-links and forms a layer. It's very effective paint system, about 70 to 100 microns thick, and not more than 120 microns, otherwise you end up losing the benefit of the paint system. Then it goes in the other direction. 70 microns is quite a nice thickness, and it's quite different to wet paint. Wet paint is normally anything from 25. don't need it to be done now. I'll do that in the new year. It's some nice corrosion testing. It gives me a good idea of what's possible, especially in this area. You know, it's unbelievable, the corrosion conditions. And the passivation on the aluminium works amazingly. I've done quite a few tests with that now. I do a trivalent zirconium passivation, so it's a reaction layer that's composed of zirconium and chromium, but trichromium, so chrome in its base state, the same type of chromium that you would get in your vitamins, that type of chromium, not the Aaron Brockovich chromium. And it doesn't go to white rust at all. It works really, really well. And I've got a new additive which my lab makes it up for me. They make it up in like a ready-to-use solution, so I just sponge it on. I don't have to, you don't need any coating tanks or any other type. All you do is just use like one of these 3M sponges, and you just sponge it on, and then it basically, as you use the 3M, one of these greens, it's got like a little buffing pad. It opens up the aluminium, removes the oxide, and then the passivation creates this reaction layer. And it's easy. You can just do it by hand. So that's what I did yesterday. And you get absolutely no white rust, nothing at all. And it's highly conductive, so it's got a mil-spec rating for the conductivity, so that there's no difference in the conductivity between the aluminium and this zirconium trichromium reaction layer. So that works very well. So I've done all of that. I always do that. So the aluminium is solved. I don't have a problem with aluminium at last. I've really got that down to a T. But these types of aluminium 6 castings and these types of materials are a little bit more difficult with a painted layer. So I'm going to see how this works. Maybe I'll come up with a good solution. So it's also, I'm enjoying the galvanic corrosion lessons that keeping an antenna up at the beginning of Africa brings. K6MYC on the long path, ZS1SBW.